You're listening to Sacks in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sacks in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at sacksinthebasement.com. I'm trying to hold on to the good vibes from this past weekend, where there was a big reunion of all these people that started off in radio together at WPGU in Champaign almost 30 years ago. Ed was there, I was there, so of course we stayed in the house with each other this weekend, which is fun. I like bunking with you from time to time.
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, we were the three oldest guys there were the last three guys up on Saturday night.
That's exactly what happened.
And we were really proud of that. We were really proud of that.
Listen, it's great to see people, but I mean, here's the thing. We're 48 years old, right? I mean, most of us, right around in that area, right? Some people might be 46. There might be a 50-year-old in there. But, like, it's about the same age group, this group that got together. And it's funny to watch. Like, some people are like, I'm an adult. I showed up. I brought my stuff in, like, a regular bag. And I'm ready to go take my room. And tonight we're going to have a good time, and I'm going to pull out my wallet every once in a while to pay the bill. And then there's people that show up with, like, their stuff in a garbage bag, and they're laying in the street because they drank too much. Like, it's kind of funny to see that dynamic.
For the record, I showed up with my stuff in a lunch bag. So I don't know where I fell in that continuum that you just described.
And here's the thing. I love each and every one of these people. So they know I'm not giving them a hard time. But, I mean, it is funny to kind of watch. Like, there was a point where one of our friends, looked at me and said, what do we do here? And I said, well, that person's an adult, and they have a mortgage, and we're going to have to trust that they'll know how to figure it out themselves, because I'm not carrying anybody down the street. This is what happens when you have a reunion of older people. You take older people and you put them in campus town where they went to college. Somebody's not going to be able to handle it. I mean, somebody's going to get there and just start pounding the moment they walk in the door. It happens. I was proud of myself that it wasn't me.
We were there.
Yeah, I was proud of myself it wasn't me, man. Like, I mean, that was the thing. I walked out, I was like, I'm going to have a couple of drinks. We'll have some conversation. We'll eat some food. What happened to so-and-so? He's dead. Okay, cool. We just keep going. Like, that's the kind of weekend that it was.
It was that kind of week. In fact, I have to applaud you. It wasn't until about 2:30 in the morning that you looked at me and went, I think I'm drunk.
Did I say that? That's amazing.
Yes, you did. Well, that was about the end of the night right then and there.
We started
which is fine.
We started at noon. If I can make it 14 and a half hours before I look at you and say that, and I'm actually back at the place 3 feet from the bed, I've done
on a couch.
Right. Yeah, I've done a very good job at that point. The White Sox did a really bad job last week. They did a terrible job. They lost every game from Sunday through Saturday. Last calendar
week. It was not good.
Yeah, that's not good. As Sacks in the Basement is brought to you by Cork and Carry at the Park, 33rd and Princeton. In the shadow of the ballpark, our proud sponsors are the place for you to go. Pre-game, post-game, in-game. And also, they've got award-winning burgers. They got ballpark favorites. They got an incredible staff. They've got indoor-outdoor seating. Even though there's been some crazy rain the last couple of days, on those beautiful days, go out there and enjoy it. And make sure you check out everything they have to offer at corkandcarry.com. But you lose every game. Right after I was really positive, right? Like I said, you got swept by Seattle. You lost the last game against the Angels. But you're winning series, and this team I'm excited about. And then they go out and they lose a bunch of games to the Guardians. I think they only won one in that series. They lose the first one in the next series. I mean, they're having a hard time, and I got to tell you something. I want to see victories here. This is one of my big concerns. I love the fact that we've got guys who are hitting the baseball, right? Like Lenny Sosa continues to just kind of show off that he can hit. And I love it. And they got to find a place for him, but I love it. He's hitting, like right now on the season, he's hitting 277 with like a 750 OPS, and he's got 14 home runs. He's tied for the lead on the team in home runs with Andrew Benintendi. And then if I take a look at him over the last 30 days, it's just stupid because he's on fire. 316 with a 904 OPS and 5 home runs over his last, 21 games.
Yeah, and I think if you go back to July 1st, he's got something like 8 of his home runs.
Yeah.
So he did really well at the start of July, too. He's been on fire for a month and a half.
Right. I mean, Colson Montgomery's got 10 over the same period of time, and he's on fire. He's hitting 238. I love what I'm seeing out of him. Luis Robert Jr., turns out that he's going to have a great second half. Ruined his trade value. Now he's going to have a great second half. They're going to have to pick up the option. I mean, I don't want
He's getting himself paid.
Listen, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, right? Like I don't. I mean, I'm sure it's just a weird thing that happened where Luis Robert Jr. completely played bad the first half of the season, and now he's going to have a great second half of the season, so his $20 million option could be picked up before he's traded to another team. That's shocking to me how that's all working out, but I'm glad he's playing well, and you should be able to get good things for him. Miguel Vargas answering the call last 30 days. 296 average, 875 OPS. 3 bombs over his last 13 games is all he's played in, right?
Right. Well, yeah, because he's on the IL with the oblique injury. So
right. I understand it. I get that.
Opens up Curtis Mead coming up to see what he can do.
I understand that, but I'm just pointing out that right before he got injured, there was life again, right? And maybe when the season's over, there'll be life. I am worried, though. I was actually looking him up today. And I was like, okay, let's where is he at right now? And he came into the season, according to Baseball Reference, a -1 win above replacements for his career, right? And really, if you're 1 above, 1 below, you're replacement level. It doesn't need to be right on the zero. And his 2005 now is a 1.2 B-WAR, his Baseball Reference win above replacement. F-WAR is when Fangraphs does it. It's a little bit of a different formula, but they're normally pretty close. His on-base percentage is up over his career number of 287, which actually takes into account 2025, but just his season alone is 305. His OPS plus is just under 100 for 2025, which means he's very, very close to the league average. And his OPS is 707. So again, very, very close to the league average. And that's a nice thing, and it's exciting. But it goes back to the idea of right now, he is a Major League Baseball player at about replacement level. Like he wasn't even that until this season. Right now, that's his body of work unless something changes the rest of the way. And my biggest complaint about Andrew Vaughn was he was that. So, like, look, he's a Major League Baseball player. You have a lot of other positions you need to fill on the field. And there may be potential at 25 years old with a couple of these good little stretches he's had. What if he could put together and be more consistent? But that's kind of how you have to view him. And I got to ask you, when you see what Andrew Vaughn is doing since he left, on one hand, I'm really excited about what they've been able to do with Miguel Vargas. On the other hand, there's a promotion out right now in Milwaukee. They're giving away a King Vaughn t-shirt. It made my head hurt, Ed.
Yeah, that hurts.
Look, he's been over there now for 26 games, and he's hitting 352 over his first 106 plate appearances with a 1045 OPS, 7 home runs over 26 games. I don't know where that comes from. Now, I will insist until the day I die that it was the right thing to get rid of him. Because after you look at his body of work, and at 27 years old, he was never going to do that for you. The question becomes, why is he able to do it someplace else? The Sox have to look at themselves internally and ask that question. And then I also wonder, is this similar to the Jake Berger thing? Remember, he gets dealt and is really, really hot with a new team. But he's been back and forth between the minors and the majors this year on a completely different team because it wasn't sustainable. And I wonder if that's eventually what we'll see from King Vaughn. Remember, they had the Berger promotion almost right after he left, and we were all like, oh, how do we let him go? I wonder if this is the same thing.
Feels like it. It really does, because Andrew Vaughn was always incredibly streaky. This is still, a relatively small sample size. And it's something where there is that sort of, FU energy back towards the White Sox. You gave up on me. And Berger had reason to, because he was arguably one of the best hitters on the team, if not the best hitter on the team at the time he got traded. And Vaughn was humbled and humiliated to a certain degree because he was sent down and basically told, you're not it. And when there was opportunities for players to be brought up, Andrew Vaughn was not it. And he gets traded for a guy that just really wanted out of Milwaukee because he wasn't good enough, in Andrew Savali. So Vaughn has to go to Milwaukee and prove that he can still be a major league player. He's playing for his life right now. And it's entirely possible that he will finish out the season with extremely good numbers with the Milwaukee Brewers. It's entirely possible that he will have a good postseason with them. It is also entirely possible that come next year, given a full season, Andrew Vaughn, for whatever reason, got into his head, got into his mechanics, got into whatever that happened with the White Sox where he would go hot and cold, that he's going to go back to being a replacement level guy for him. And maybe they'll be happy with that. And maybe they'll ride the hots and not worry about the colds. And maybe it's just something where the weight of expectation has come off of him. Miguel Vargas, if you want to draw that parallel, weight of expectation on him as the top prospect in the Dodgers organization, thrust into a situation where he's got to perform on a team with championship aspirations, comes here as the lone prize, basically. I mean, I know there's a couple of prospects thrown in.
Yeah, but he was the only real prize. That was it. He was the
only real prize for a team that basically sold all the parts that they had to sell to get him, and has the weight of expectation of having to try and prove the Dodgers wrong and the White Sox right. And I do really think that a lot of the question becomes mentally, what are you teaching these guys? Because Colson Montgomery is an indication of the flip side. You're right. His 238 average, you look at that, you mention it for a reason. He's not really hitting.
Well, that's over the last. But that's over the last 30, because I want to make sure that I clarify that, because somebody will point that out. That's over the last 30 days. I was looking at that when I said he's actually in 241 right now with an 876 OPS. Still the same 10 home runs, because if I expand out just a little bit, because he just got here, it changes things slightly. But you're right. I mean, at least it's not 200. Because, that looked scary last week.
Well, yeah, and you want to, over the last 15 days, he's only hitting 190. So, but 6 home runs over the last 15 days. So Colson Montgomery clearly hitting the ball out of the ballpark, not raking though, okay? And a lot of with Colson Montgomery, what the question was mental, as it turned out. There was some mechanical stuff, there's some approach stuff, but approach is mental. And clearly he's got some talent there. 6 home runs in the last 15 days, when that's out of 8 hits, 6 of them have left the ballpark. That's impressive, okay? And that's a very useful talent to have. And maybe it's the torpedo bat, maybe it's just how he's seeing the ball or what he's able to do. But there's going to be something with Colson Montgomery that's going to have to turn on, because he can't sustain that pace of, 6 home runs every 2 weeks. It's not realistic. So Vaughn, his success with the Brewers might be between his ears more so than anything else. Vargas, his ups and downs with the White Sox, and the fact that he might finish this season as a replacement level player after being well below replacement, might be enough to boost his confidence to see if there's another step in there next year. Okay. Colson Montgomery has to build on this. Lenyn Sosa is the guy that's walking out there right now and going, yeah, it's me. I'm the guy. Okay. And you can tell his swagger. You can tell the way he plays. When he gets out on the field, it's problematic, but it doesn't affect him at the plate at all. He's not taking the bad defense or the questionable defense at best up to the plate with him. So the mental skills are there. That's a lot of the coaching more so than anything else.
Switch to a new age of life with Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living. Make it so they can get around on their own. Live independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, even bathroom remodeling. Hyatt's going to work with your insurance and has 0% financing for qualified individuals. If you use a CPAP machine, on that weekend that we were just on, there were some CPAP users. One guy had a CPAP machine so loud he insisted on staying in a hotel instead of the house with the rest of us. Don't be embarrassed like that guy. Get the latest and greatest from Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Like I said, they'll work with your insurance. They have the latest as well in continuous glucose monitors. Learn all about them at hhme.com. So what do you add? I'm assuming that Luis Robert Jr. is gone and traded. And I don't know what you're getting for him, but I'm not going to even speculate on the return. And so right now your center fielder is Brooks Baldwin, and I can probably live with it if you're going to go out and you're going to fix up a little bit of those corner outfield positions. Like Benintendi right now with his 14 home runs, maybe you don't need to fix it. I mean, if you get over 20 home runs a year out of him, are you okay with that? Or are you trying to move him in his $15 million so you can spend the money differently? Like if you could move Benintendi in the offseason in his $15 million, and you could move the $20 million that you would be on the hook for Luis Robert Jr., and you're going to have like a $20-some million payroll walking in the door, and you're looking at the old man. Like at some point, you might be able to sit there and say, hey, Can I just get a little bit of an increase over here, sir? And by the way, I saved you $35 million moving these two players. And so I'd like to take that money and change my corner outfielders and maybe find a corner infielder and add some power to my team. Is that really the goal? I mean, it feels to me like that's the goal. If you can make Lenyn Sosa a part of your team, and I don't think he's a DH because that's not enough home runs for the designated hitter spot. But if you can find a spot for him, like we said last week, maybe you can convert him into the corner outfield in the offseason. Maybe there's still a way to make him an infielder, although I don't think that that's possible. I think you got a better chance in the corner outfield. Maybe you fix that position. You go out and get a designated hitter, another corner outfielder, another corner infielder. You move Sosa out into that corner outfield. You got to find power. You got to find hitting, because then you got to turn around. You got to shore up the rotation. You got a lot of young arms, but they're struggling and they don't do well throughout the entire year. And worst case, you're flipping them at the deadline like you've done for the last couple of years, some of these guys that you're going to bring in, but you need to shore up around those players. But it feels like something you could do, and it feels like it could be far more competitive. And it feels like if you do end up losing 98, 99, 100 games this year, that's a big improvement. You could make another leap the year after that and be a team that is close to or around 500. And that's where I'd like to see them. So what are you looking at this team? Because I can see the names that I care about, Ed. The Colson Montgomerys, I care about him. I think that guy's going to be around. I'm surprised by it, but I'm excited. The two catchers you have in Caro and Teal, they're going to be around. I'm curious what Curtis Meade can do. I'm curious what Miguel Vargas can do. I'm curious, can Chase Mydroth be an everyday player, or is he a utility guy? Same thing with Brooks Baldwin, and Lenyn Sosa hits right now. And you've got these two pieces in Benintendi and Robert that have high price tags, and you got a general manager that knows his owner's cheap, and he's got to find a way to continue to build the team without giving him sticker shock. Is that the way you're seeing this as well?
Yeah, and Benintendi, to your point about, if he hits 20 home runs, we're talking about team leaders here who are at 14 home runs. Meanwhile, if you look around the majors, 14 home runs really isn't much, at this time of the year. Across town, Seiya Suzuki has 27. Pete Crow Armstrong has 27. And I know PCA is a budding superstar, but he's also only hitting 259 with an 823 OPS. So those are numbers that I feel like Colson Montgomery could be at in a full season if this is what he is.
I mean, as a team, you're 23rd in Major League Baseball right now with 117.
Yeah, it's just not good enough.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, Nick Kurtz of the A's, who in 80 games only is hitting 304 with a 1.012 OPS, has 23 home runs. Sorry. Okay, that's somebody you sit there and you go, okay, we've got power in this lineup. Colson has shown power. Lenyn Sosa has shown power. Andrew Benintendi has sold out for power, is what I'm going to say, given his 223 batting average and relatively low hitting stats outside of the home runs. But you need power. You need some guys who just naturally have it, who are going to approach that 30 level at least, and not talk about having, your home run leaders be 2 or 3 guys in the 20s, in the low 20s for that matter. That was the other problem with Andrew Vaughn, was the power numbers seemed to be capped. And it seemed like even with him selling out for more power, if that's what he was doing here, he wasn't going to get to that 30 plateau.
And here's the problem with selling out for power. Here's the problem with selling out the way that they are. For going for the long ball, you're changing launch angle. You're going for everything. You're doing all that stuff. Here's the real issue with the White Sox. The only team that's worse than them in OPS, which is your on base and your slugging percentage in all of Major League Baseball, is the Pittsburgh Pirates. The White Sox have a 668 team OPS. That's what they're doing right now.
Oh, that hurts.
Right. So you may be starting to find home runs, but you're not finding as many doubles. You're not finding as many triples. You're not getting on base at the right clip. And that number is even more damning to them, is where they're at. So we're seeing like a spark with some of the hitting, but you need to add hitters to this team. And the idea that there's magical fairy dust that's going to make some of the guys that are sitting down in the minors become those hitters is crazy. And the young guys that you have up here right now, we've talked about this before. Don't put the pressure on somebody who's trying to make it to the majors that, hey, kid, I know you just got here, but we could use 40 home runs out of you in an 800 OPS this year. You think you can handle that for me? Especially while you're trying to learn the catcher position? I mean, look at Lenyn Sosa, how long it's taken him just to get to where he's at, and he's not enough of an impact bat to really get that number up next year. He's just the only thing that's if you take Sosa out, you're below the Pirates. He's just getting you the 29th spot right now. That's what Sosa's doing for you. So, I mean, this is an issue. They've got to find hitting on this team, even though we're enjoying a little bit of an offense lately, even though we're seeing a few guys get home runs. I mean, if I'm trying to project out the home runs for the rest of the year, for Benintendi to get to 20 home runs, he's got to basically get a home run every week going forward. Right? Aren't we about 6 weeks out? Or do we play? Do we play well in October now? I don't know. The schedule's always changing. But I mean, close to that. I mean, some of these guys basically, if you're sitting at 13, you got to get like one every week. And so somebody's going to do it. Some guys aren't going to do it. And so they need to find more than that. You can't have your leaders be at 20, 21, 22 home runs. Didn't we start off the year doing that? Who's going to hit 20 home runs?
Yeah, we did. And the sad part is that the list we came up with is about as long as what we have. And Lenyn Sosa is a guy that has a chance. Andrew Benintendi is a guy that has a chance. Luis Robert with 12. I'd give him a chance if he started getting really hot at the end to pick up that option. And Miguel Vargas, if he wasn't hurt, might have in terms of the power numbers, might have the best opportunity. He's got 13 home runs, 25 doubles. He's the only guy on the team with more than 20 doubles at this point. So it's not just hitting the ball out of the ballpark. It's just hitting the ball hard is what this team needs to be able to do next year. So they got to find some guys who do that on a consistent basis. Chase Meidroth, to your point about whether or not he's an everyday player, we know that he's not a guy that is going to hit for a ton of power and that his doubles are going to be mostly the hustle type, right? And he is going to learn how to hit pitching in the major leagues better to where he's going to put better contact on the ball. Colson Montgomery will learn the same thing. He'll get more base hits, not just hit the ball out of the ballpark. The two catchers, Caro and Teal, will absolutely, they don't have a problem putting the bat on the ball as much as they just need to be able to refine it and put power behind it in appropriate situations. There's growth that's going to happen naturally, okay? But the fact is that they really need to find one or two guys out there that are a little bit more of a professional hitter from the standpoint of giving you some average, giving you some doubles, some homers, something, and then maybe one other guy out there that is going to approach the 30, maybe 40 home run plateau. They got to find that somewhere. And if that's Colson, that's great, but he needs a running mate, okay? And it's not going to be Luis Robert Jr. because he's not going to be here. And even if he is, he's not going to be here the entire year. And even if he is here for part of the year, we've seen what he does in the first half historically, so it's going to be a giant question mark anyway. So you got to find that. And Teal and Caro are probably not those guys. Lenyn Sosa, I don't think he's that guy. He didn't hit that many home runs in the minors. He puts good wood on the ball, and he is getting a lot of hits. He's got 16 doubles, but again, that's not a ton. The 277 average, there's a lot of hard hit singles there. He is your hits leader with 101, but he's got to start hitting more extra base hits as well, and you've got to find a spot for him. The fact is that if you're going into next year, unless Lenyn Sosa is the guy that brings you the haul, that brings back some of these players that are major league ready, Lenyn Sosa's got to be on this team, and you got to find a spot for him. Miguel Vargas should be on this team, and you've got a couple of opportunities for him and a couple of spots for him. In terms of your outfield, though, an overhaul is probably due. And all due respect to Brooks Baldwin, we can live with him in center, but honestly, if you found 3 new outfielders, I wouldn't be a problem with that.
Stocks in the Basement listeners trying to make the most of your money, give a call to Tom Walsh, your Edward Jones financial advisor. Located on the corner of 111th and Kedzie, but serving the Chicagoland area, Tom has a get-to-know-you approach and a do-the-right-thing attitude. He's been doing this for decades. It's all about knowing your options when you're investing and planning for your retirement. No matter what stage you are at, it costs nothing to check in with Tom. Give Tom Walsh, your Edward Jones financial advisor, a call today, 773-779-0023. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Here's the other problem that they have. They're also second to last in on-base percentage. And we keep talking about how the new idea or the new philosophy is that they should be getting on base. Like, remember how long they wait to bring up prospects, and then when the prospects got like a 400 on base percentage or 450 on base percentage, they brought them up. Like, that's what they waited on with Teal, and that's what they waited on with Caro, and that's what they were seemingly waiting on with Montgomery. They definitely waited on that with Mydroth, but those are the names of the guys who have actually gotten to the majors, and their on base percentage is above the 299 team on base percentage, which now has them 29th out of 30th at this point in the season. So it's the young guys are showing up. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Teal, he's got a 357 on base percentage so far. Edgar Caro's got a 337 on base percentage. Mydroth, who has struggled, 330 on base percentage still. Colson Montgomery, 311 at least. He's above it. Sosa, just a few points above it, 306. Miguel Vargas at 305. Other than that, I mean, Mike Tauchman's way up there at 367, but I don't look at him as my long-term core. Those are the names of guys that you brought up this year, right? And they're the only ones really getting on base at higher than what the team averages. They're leading the team, and they're leading a team that's one of the worst in baseball at getting on base. So you could see that the team wants to fix that, right? Because they wait until they bring those guys up. But you need 9 that do that. Hell, you need 9, and you need guys on base that are getting, or on the bench that are getting on base. You don't have enough right now. And so there are additions that need to be made to the team, and the idea that you're going to find 9 guys in the minor leagues or develop 9 guys to do it in-house is crazy. And so this goes back to the discussion we've had for years around this show. It's not blocking somebody to put a competent baseball player in an open position. So like you said, that outfield can be redone. You know, they need to find more in their lineup than what they have right now, because otherwise you're relying on all these guys who just got here to somehow drag this team out of the bottom of the major offensive categories in all of baseball. And that's where they sit right now. So I think that's got to be the focus for Getz in the organization. And again, they're going to have a very low payroll walking into the offseason, and he can really redo things if he's able to move Luis Robert Jr. and Andrew Benintendi, and he can look at Jerry Reinsdorf and he can say, okay, now I need to spend the money that I just saved you. Because he is dealing with a guy who's bad at business, who doesn't really know what he's doing yet, who's been bad at it for 40 years. You can have all the platitudes you want to. You can have all the people in the world get in front of a microphone and talk about what a great owner he is. He's terrible at it. Bad owner.
Yeah, and we were reminded of the guy he took over from this past weekend when they celebrated Bill Veeck.
Yes.
I mean, tell me, Chris, if you ever get married again, don't you want it to be by Ron Kittle?
Of course I want Ronnie to do it.
On the field?
Ronnie would do it, right? He's been on the show a few times. We'll get Ron.
Oh, yeah.
Ron will marry me. Here's the thing, though. Never getting married again.
I understand.
You know, I used to make that joke all the time when I was married, when she would sit there and she would say, would you ever marry again if I died? And I was like, no, never. I would never do this again.
No.
No. And now that I'm divorced, definitely would never do this again. Never. You're crazy if you think I'm going to do that again. But it's cute for those people. We did have that moment, right, where the young people came walking into the bar while we were all on the little trip this past weekend, and they had just come from a wedding. Were you there for that moment?
I was not. I missed that moment that you told me about.
Were you there for the moment when I looked at them and I said, oh, call me in 19 years. I'm going to tell you how this one's going to end. And then all the divorced people laughed at the same.
Yep. I think there was knowing laughter.
I think there's 2 people at that table who are still married. To each other, maybe.
And it was the 2 people that are married to each other that were out with us, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not bitter. Not bitter at all. Doing great.
No.
Doing great. Life is wonderful.
You're doing fantastic.
Divorce is the most beautiful thing in the entire world because you can kind of do whatever the heck you want to. I'm going to Bourbon Beyond in September. I'm going to do that. I got White Sox baseball to enjoy. I can sit down. I got all the time in the world to go over this. And I can see you need to add on base percentage. You need to get more slugging. You need to get your home runs up, and you need to not feel bad. This is the scary thing for me. You can't feel bad that some guy who performed this year isn't actually good enough to start on this team next year as a starter. That it goes back to the cutthroat.
You're talking about Chase Mydroth and maybe even Brooks Baldwin.
Right, Brooks Baldwin, Chase Mydroth may not be good enough if you need to add those pieces, right? Miguel Vargas, jury's out for me still. I got one really good month and a couple of weeks before he got himself injured. But the vast majority of his body of work has been cold, not hot. And so that's the thing. You can have a plan. You can give guys an opportunity. This is a great year for everybody that's on this team to try to get regular, everyday playing time and do the most with it so they could be a real Major League Baseball player. But at some point, those opportunities should be drying up because real Major League Baseball players are filling in around the guys who actually did something consistently all year in 2025. That's the key. That's the key to everything. That's what you should be watching. If you're asking me, Chris, what should I be watching for the last multiple weeks here we have, the rest of August, the rest of September, what should you be watching? You should have your TV on with the sound muted when Schriffin's calling the games. And you should be saying who's performing here and not laying down the last 6-7 weeks and who overall did a good job and was consistent because I want that person on my baseball team. And if they're not doing that, you should want that person off your baseball team, along with that announcer.
Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement.
Socks in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always on socksinthebasement.com.